Hey everyone, I'm Marcus.
And I'm Charlie, and this is the Mood Booster Podcast.
In this podcast, Charlie and I come together to reflect on our daily experiences, looking for the highs and the lows in lives, but importantly, just finding joy in the everyday.
Exactly that. We're not here to preach, just to connect, reflect, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of a lift wherever you are.
Yeah, you can expect stories that spark something, science that makes sense, and just a conversation between two friends that feels like you're on a long, long walk catching up with an old companion.
Exactly that. This episode is on criticism, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Being real, I get quite vulnerable in this one. I go into quite a lot of my own sort of negative self-beliefs, my biggest insecurities, based on some recent experiences of negative criticism that I had online and actually in person. So yeah, appreciate the compassion in this one, Charlie, as well from yourself.
Yeah, we go into a little bit about how to listen to that versus how to listen to your own self-talk, your own self-worth, and really how to weigh it all up as well. It's a really exciting episode. It's really interesting and quite, just introspective. So yeah, let's boost some moods and let's go.
Let's do it.
Hello everyone.
Hi everyone.
Welcome to the 11th episode of the Mood Booster Podcast.
Onse.
We are here. We are back.
Yes, we are. Oh,
We're back.
it feels so good to be back.
We are so back.
It's literally been like 2 days more than what it usually has been in between recording. So for reference, we're recording this on a Friday. We usually record it on a Wednesday. And yeah, it just feels like it's been so long.
It has been out of whack. I'm not sure if you guys knew, but we were actually in Morocco recently, so our timings have been a little bit all over the place. Didn't manage to get our street interviews done recently, so we're now back to normality, back to the land of the UK, back at home.
Normalement.
We did get back quite late, didn't we, yesterday?
We did indeed. Before we go into all of that, quickly, today,
yes. Today's episode, what are we reflecting on, Marcus?
We are reflecting on criticism.
Whoa.
So yes, stay tuned for that one. It's going to be a good one.
It should be a great one.
I'm going to get quite deep in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, we did get back late last night. Flew back from the airport from Marrakesh to Gatwick.
Oh, you did, yeah.
Charlie came to pick me up. I will insert the pic in the carousel.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
He came in his full suit,
tuxedo, I should say.
The chauffeur that he is, with my name on his phone. It was just a sublime thing to walk around.
I was getting some weird looks, you know.
Really?
I was getting some weird because people were next to me, or all the other taxi drivers were there next to me, but I was wearing a tuxedo and sunglasses at midnight in the airport. I think people knew I was joking as well. Just knew I was like a friend, just picking you up as well. So
it was hilarious.
It's Ross. Hi. Oh, there, Ross.
Hello.
We're actually now back in our house, so we're just getting settled.
We're back home.
That was a late night. I think we got back about 2, didn't we?
God, so... it was very late. We were doing lots of just driving, talking, and then I bought food to eat and didn't eat it because it was just
classic you.
Too late.
You don't eat a lot, do you?
I do eat a lot. It's too much actually. Unlike you don't eat a lot, do you?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why that comment gets to me so much.
Because you want to be jacked.
I want to be big and wham.
Yeah.
Need to eat more.
No. Well, exactly. So how was your week anyway? Before we go into
my week's been a roller coaster. Thank you for asking very much. Since we last spoke to you guys, we went to Marrakesh, not the capital, but one of the main cities in Morocco. And that was unbelievably hectic. Prior to that, we did the Agadir half marathon, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
That was sublime. Bit on a whim as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
We bought tickets on the day.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it in the last episode. If we didn't, then regardless. But we
hadn't run it yet.
No, of course. But we've done it, and
we have done it.
Following up from that, basically, it was on a whim.
One word: hot.
Oh my!
Say sure.
Es muy caliente.
Very warm. It was 30 degrees, I think it was.
More than, surely.
32, 33 maybe.
It felt like it. Maybe 45. Who knows?
I was talking to my mum about the run in general and just saying I was saying how happy I was that I could easily do a half, not easily, but do a half and mentally know that I could get it done. I think because a month prior we had just done Rome, so I knew I had it in the bag, and that was quite a nice feeling as well. And I was describing the different chapters of the run. Start off instantly hit with this wave of heat. We're running. There was one point which really stuck out to me. It was on 18.5k. We were running up that hill just before we turned the corner to come back the final stretch. I remember you just sort of kept on pushing through and started to drop me a little bit. I almost collapsed there. I'm not sure if you knew.
What?
Yeah, I didn't say anything, but when I took my hat off and put the water on my head, I remember my vision started getting fuzzy and blurry.
Really?
It was so hot. I think I was just overheating completely. And I remember
Is that the time that I filmed it and then you were like, I'm not feeling good, and I was like,
it was about 500 meters after that. There was a hill which we were
okay,
going up to, and
yes,
before
yeah,
going
yeah, yeah,
right, you were running ahead of me, and I took my hat off and put
okay,
water on my head.
yes.
I remember my vision just started going, but I remember I was just like, just keep on
Oh,
running.
what?
Yeah,
Sorry about that. I didn't know.
no, it's all your fault.
Yeah, well, I would have helped if I'd known.
I think I don't know why, but part of me was like, I knew I can get it done, so just
Okay.
get it done. You've run twice this distance,
Woof. Yeah.
but that was quite a nice feeling as well to have that
Mm.
sort of strength in me as well.
Yeah, well, you worked for it, so.
Yeah, glad I got a medal though.
Yeah, we did Agadir half marathon, and we want to talk about this. I forgot we were going to
Yeah,
talk
we
about
do.
this.
Please.
We carry on talking about your week after this, but
Yeah.
yeah. So we were talking about Strava and achievements, and I've basically, because I've run a half marathon every month now for like I think 5 years or 5+ years. And I said to Charlie jokingly, like, oh, if this doesn't end up the route is under half marathon on Strava, I might have to carry on running for extra couple 100 meters. And he was challenging me like, why does Strava matter? If you know you've done it, that's all that matters. And I was talking about sort of the little trophy collections and a bit like Pokemon, collecting them and whatever. And yes, I've done them every month more for the memories and the sentiment and all of that and everything that comes with that, not just for the bragging rights or for the medals. However, I don't know, it was just a little part of me that was like, it's cool. And then you literally said to me something along the lines of, if you never got a medal again, would you still do the half marathons, or would you be happy? Or you said if someone, that was it, you said if someone
Burned all your medals,
burnt all
how
of
would
your
you feel?
medals, how would you feel? And I very honestly answered, I'd be annoyed,
I was
but
just trying to challenge you
I would be
because
annoyed, but I wouldn't
if you truly
mind.
say that and I think I was taking it to a bit of an extreme, but I was just trying to see what your actual thought process was. If you're truly, truly doing it for yourself, surely the journey of doing it is actually what you
Well,
crave and savor
of course it is.
instead of the trophy at the end.
Of
But I do
course.
also appreciate us as humans like to attach, as you very much said, a material item
Mm,
to our journey to
mm.
resemble and bring back those memories as
No,
well.
of course. And like I said on the day, 100% it would be slightly annoying, but because I don't do it for those medals primarily, I do it for the sentiment, the memory, the experience, and
Yeah.
all of those things that come with it. So I think the medal is just a little reminder, a little nod to, if you're walking in your bedroom or past your whatever, and you see it there, it kind of is just a little prompt to remember.
Yeah.
As opposed to I'm doing it just for the medals. I never, this isn't a woe it's me moment, but I don't think I got a single medal as a child growing up. I wasn't a sporty child.
You know what? Not even
No,
like a sports day.
no, I wasn't a sporty child.
But surely you took part in sports day or not? No.
Yeah, well, if I did, I definitely didn't win anything.
Fair enough.
Maybe I probably got a certificate for something unrelated to sport, but I can't remember. Anyway, I'm not a big medley person.
Yeah.
But anyway, all of this to say, that conversation, never had that conversation before. Of
Hmm.
all of the times for us to have that conversation, get to the finish line, there are no medals.
Uwe medal.
Away, la medal. They'd run out of medal.
And water, I should preface as well. And water.
Yeah, it was a bun fight for water. Fortunately, we got one bottle, but everyone was absolutely hounding this guy that just had one tiny little crate of water left. And
The most surprising thing was we didn't even do it. I don't want to throw this term out sparingly, the word slowly, because that's obviously
no,
quite
yeah,
subjective, but we did it in just over 2 hours. And for me, in that heat, that was a very impressive time.
yeah,
And so when we finished, and people were in front of the finish line, it looked like they were almost packing up the event, and there was no water. I
yeah.
was just thinking, how quick has everyone here done it?
I
That
know.
we're at, a very reputable time,
It was chaos.
acting like we're like the last ones to finish. I was baffled.
We got to the finish line, and there were just people walking all over the finish line, just like,
Taking pictures before it.
what is happening? And like you say, we weren't slow at all. We were just over 2 hours. That's a very good time. Why are you packing up? Hold on, there's people still running.
And then this kid who got an hour 34 walks up with a medal, being like, "Hey, how slow do you guys do it?" I was like, "Right, this is the kid who I was asking about where the medals were."
Uela medal. It's when we finished and a marshal or some random stranger, as they all do, came up to us and said, you're like, you're hot, aren't you? And he was in his coat. He's like, this is cold here. This is cold for us locals.
They're so
And there
funny.
we were, just passing out in the heat.
Not wearing tops in a Muslim country. Probably a little bit
Yeah,
dangerous, but regardless, that was the Agadir half marathon. Lots of fun.
it was so much fun.
An elite memory, and I think if I'm trying to be quite reflective of it, the fact that we didn't get medals and the whole journey of afterwards trying to search for one, no water, makes it almost more fun as well.
Yeah,
It adds something to the story.
100%.
Yeah, brilliant. So that was the Agadir half, and then we got a
Yeah.
bus that afternoon, about an hour later, straight to Marrakesh, didn't we?
Yeah.
Which was also a very, very warm bus as well. But
Oh my god.
bus from hell,
Yeah.
my word. But
Anyway.
then, yeah, we arrived into Marrakesh. Were you ill by this point, or no?
No.
No. Okay.
I'll
well,
get onto that.
We can get onto that. And then I spent the next 3 days or so in Marrakesh. You've stayed out a little bit longer than I have, but yeah, had the journey of that. Loved Marrakesh for myself. Wouldn't rush back, but I feel like I've done it well in terms of the haggling. That for me was a real high point. It was one of the evenings we were in this market walking through, and part of Marrakesh, if you're not aware, is there's an incessant, I'm not sure if that's the right word, nature to haggle.
Yeah.
Everything, if you look at it, someone will see that you're looking and they'll be on you. And unless you're so firm, it's game over. Yeah. So you have to have this mindset where you need to be like, I'm going to be saying no, or I'm going to be investing into this haggle.
Yeah.
It's either or. You cannot be on the line.
It's
here,
intense. It is intense.
isn't it? So we did some haggling, and I found out I actually loved it. You know, I didn't realize, because it's not quite like sales. I mean, it is for them.
Yeah.
But just the nature of having to be like, be so offended at the price they've given you that you almost feel sick. You're like,
You put on a show.
Oh my god, no. What? £2 for that pillowcase? I'm gonna throw up. You know, you have to be so dramatic about it. You have to be so dramatic. But you have to be firm as well. And part of me was loving that as well.
Yeah.
So we got some amazing pillowcases. What else did we get? Chessboard.
Chess set, which I've never played, but I'm looking
We'll be
forward to
teaching
learning.
Marcus chess soon.
Some coasters, something else.
I got a mask from Zimbabwe, didn't I?
You did.
You love that mask, don't you?
I'm indifferent to it.
You hate the decoration.
It's going in your room. It's a very specific type of decor which I just don't really understand, especially
It's the
given
African
that
decor,
I've
isn't it?
never been there myself.
I
So
think it's such cool artwork.
yeah, I think if you're asking, if I'd have been there and seen it either made or produced or whatever there, and it was native to the place I'd been to, it'd make more sense. You know how when we went to Tagazout, we got this amazing hand-drawn paintings that were literally not drawn, painted in front of us in Tagazout, where we were prior to Marrakesh. Beautiful sunset over the sea, just lovely. Goats in a tree situation, silhouette.
Really cool piece of art.
For me, what's absolutely incredible about that is that it's firstly, made in front of me, so that's the only one in the world that's like that. But also, it was made there of scenery around that sort of place.
Yeah,
and I know it's a painting and it's not a traditional art form to that place, but still, do you know what I mean?
I completely get.
I've never been to Zimbabwe or anywhere else similar.
Even though I've been, I didn't get it there. So no, I do completely get that, and also agree with that as well. I think just part of me sees Marrakesh as like this place where you can get all these trinkets and this bric-a-brac and all these cool things and these underground markets and the Alibaba shops. Like,
oh my god,
that's what it's known for.
They're also connected, aren't they?
They're also connected.
We're in this rooftop bar down the road, and he was like, "Let me show you to this shop after you leave." And then we're leaving, and he like chased after us, like, "No, we've got to go to this shop now." Took us to the shop, instantly ushered us to these other people in the shop, who then instantly ushered us into this other room where they were putting on all of these clothes on us, and then
a shop gives it justice, doesn't it? It's not a shop,
I can't even describe
underground hidden market.
At this time, I was well. I'll get to it. At this time, I was well, so I was very much. I had this like character persona of just like leaning into it because I find it so intense and in your face, so I just kind of go along with it, and I'm like, oh really? And they just get really sort of I play up to it, which I think they love as well, and it's just a whole back and forth banter, interestingly.
Who the hell's cat is that?
Oh, cat's just run across the...
Whose cat is that?
Hey, kitty. I don't know, we're still new to this house, so we're learning the local wildlife.
Local wildlife.
The local scene.
Get a bird watcher here, maybe tell us what sort of cat that is.
Yeah, so Anyway, they then took us to the shop and then handed us over to someone else, and they're like, "Oh, and you've got to come to this pharmacy as well. Not to the pharmacy, the what's
Herb
it? Oh my
market,
god, yeah, I can't
herb
remember the
and
name of it.
scent place.
There's a name for it, but anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, it was a lot, and it was fun until it wasn't fun.
Until it wasn't fun.
We were doing all of the haggling on a specific night.
Yeah.
We'd been to. There's so much to unpack about, or to talk about from Marrakesh, but we don't have necessarily all of the time. We went to
No.
but just to briefly talk about, I won't go into all the details, but we went to the Atlas Mountains on a little day excursion,
Yeah.
which was really fun. Part of the excursion was food, lunch, and I can't talk about it too much 'cause it still makes me feel ill.
Does
You know
it?
how when if you've ever had food poisoning or neurovirus or anything like that, the food that, like you say, for example, I had neurovirus back when I used to eat meat,
Yeah.
and the evening prior to the symptoms happening, which I don't know to go into detail about, I'd eaten chorizo all day long at work,
Oh god.
and I don't eat meat anymore anyway, but I could never eat chorizo again.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so anyway, I can't still think about that meal, and I was going through the camera roll yesterday and saw the picture of the meal, and it was just anyway. Basically, we were walking around this market haggling, having been to this Atlas Mountains, having had the lunch out in the Atlas Mountains, and I just started getting stomach cramps to the point where I said, "Can someone wear my belt? Because
I remember that. I was
my
baffled.
stomach is really sore, and when I get a bad stomach, it swells so badly, and gets really swollen." So you put my belt on,
On my shorts with no belt buckles.
Yeah, still haven't given it back.
I did.
No, I'm joking.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you left it in Marrakesh.
He wants my belt.
It's a very nice belt, guys.
And
Insert
then
picture of belt.
just progressively got worse and worse as Charlie was enjoying and loving the haggling, and I was just
Yeah.
enjoying it less and less and less. And then we got to this rooftop bar, and I knew I shouldn't have ordered in the moment because it was literally like rapid decline
It
at
was
this stage.
insane how quickly you went
And
downhill.
I was like, just order anyway, you'll be
Yeah.
fine. And then as literally the second I put the order through, that it was just the point of no return. And anyway, proceeded to use both sides of the toilet. That's a really poor way of saying it.
Both sides.
Both ends, let's just say both ends.
Oh my word, yeah.
Up every hour throughout the night.
That was rough.
Riding a temperature, just awful, and remained awful. The pain was horrible. So then I just was walking around Marrakesh for the next few days with a temperature. The smells of Marrakesh are very strong.
You in a bad way,
And
weren't
I
you?
was just, I can't leave this Airbnb because every time I leave, I'm just hit with smells, people attacking me, not literally, obviously,
People who smell.
people, and just, it was just intense.
Yeah.
And so, not to mention the heat, which obviously for them, and the taxi driver said again on the way to the airport, "This is cold for us. It gets to 50 degrees." And I was like, okay, well, this is warm for me. So anyway, it was just,
So hot.
it was a lot. And
I was ill in Tagazu. I couldn't imagine your illness, which was worse in Marrakesh. The intensity of the town compared or compiled with the symptoms that you were giving off was, yeah, I truly had empathy for you there. I felt sorry for you.
Yeah, and you guys, we didn't have the best culinary experience in Tagazout.
No,
I think
it
it's
was a
fair
bit
to
weak,
say.
wasn't it? Yeah.
But in Marrakesh, you two looked like you were having some great dishes, and then I was just
Sorry
there,
about
kind
that.
of watching you eat.
This
'Cause I can eat
amazing
anything.
hummus. I'm gonna go on a bit of a thing. Just the food in Marrakesh is unbelievable. The hummus is so good. The potatoes, the sandwiches, the kefta, the tagines. Whoa, they are so tasty.
Yeah.
So I could see you sat there really hungry, but you couldn't eat. And I was like, oh well. And I just dig into this meal, and it was so tasty because after a week in Tagazout of eating respectfully burgers and pizza and pita breads,
Yeah.
it's nice to switch. But I still did very much feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say this, I'm completely appreciating the irony, being a tourist myself, but something didn't necessarily sit right with me in Tagazout. And I'm not saying this from like a savior complex or anything that I know how to immediately do a huge thing about, but seeing these Western burger restaurants,
Yeah, it was weird.
with all of these vegan, which everyone loves and whatever we benefit from,
Yeah.
while walking past children sleeping rough.
Yeah. Having to literally steal for their own food. It was
Yeah,
awful.
it was odd.
It's terrible.
And I'm maybe naive, and as I said in previous episodes about traveling, I haven't traveled to the most places in the world, and maybe that was just part of an experience for me that I hadn't experienced yet. I'm not sure, but it just didn't sit right with me. It was uncomfortable.
Part of what, yeah, I mean, it's important though to experience that. I
Yeah.
think is because it makes you so much more grateful and realize how privileged we are to be living under a roof,
Yeah.
to have food which we can order on our phones. Like that is such a blessing.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable, as you've said, to experience or to see and witness that.
Yeah.
It's
these
it's
children,
rough.
we were eating, and these children came up and just said, "Can we have the food?" And without obviously hesitation, I just gave them my food.
Yeah,
And then these locals were kind of looking and as if it was a bad thing.
scorning you for it.
And we
Yeah.
were like, "Well, you said, should you not have done that?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, if a child is asking me for food and they're sleeping rough, I don't care. I'm going to give them the food."
Completely agree with you. As soon as I said it, I was like, "What am I trying to say?" Like,
well, no, because we just didn't want to. We want to make
I
sure
didn't
we're
want to annoy
respecting and
the
doing what we're
local
supposed to be doing.
restaurant owners,
Of course.
Jinx. Yeah.
Jinx.
No, but it is.
Exactly that.
It was. It is all about balance, really. It's rough. I completely
was,
agree. It's scary and it's not comfortable, but it's important to see and it's important to know that that is a real thing.
Yeah.
Because it just unfortunately grounds you more and makes you realize how important it is to be grateful and recognize the privilege that we have, and hopefully that makes you a more grounded person. What?
I'm just thinking about the haggling with the young girls, which is
Have we told these guys about it?
no, and I think it again. I want to appreciate. I think this definitely comes from a bad place, and it's not. They shouldn't be doing this in the first place.
That's it.
And it shouldn't be needed. There was a young boy also coming around selling Uno, and he just had the most charisma and was playing the absolute field with everyone. But actually, I said to Charlie, like, if you strip that back, that's just desperately sad that there's a young 9-10-year-old who's having to perform like this.
This sales persona, he can't go back home and
but there was
this
girl. They were selling these little bracelets. We have them on.
We have them here.
And you said to
unbelievably funny. We
How
were
much?
walking past. Huh?
You said how much?
Well,
Right?
we were walking past. They had this plastic table with all these bracelets on. So I was looking, started picking up some bracelets, just having a quick flick through, just seeing what they were looking like. And as soon as you show interest in Morocco for anything, they have you. So they were looking and they saw, and they basically started pulling our arms down for us to like sit down, so they could begin trying the bracelets on our own wrist for us. And they're like, "Oh, look, it's amazing! Wow!" Doing all these sort of sales tactics. I saw this one, quite like the look of it, and so I asked this 6-year-old girl how much, and she, which was the funniest thing, just goes, business, and I lose it. I just think it's the funniest thing ever. The fact that I asked just how much a bracelet is, that's her reaction. Is so clearly learnt from whoever. That's her reaction. It's business. How much for you? How much? So I just went 10 dirham, which is a pound, and she was like, "Oh, okay," and then held her hand. Just a second of thinking if I'd bow instantly. I didn't. And she held out her hand. I gave her some money, and then she ran to her mum and held up the note, being, look, and the mum was like, "Yep, good, well done." Thought it was the cutest thing that she had tried this little persona of selling, and it warmed my heart. And I think it's a lovely story about this bracelet.
It is.
It's funny. And,
It is.
endearing.
So before we go on to criticism,
Yeah.
anything else? All good?
Yeah, returned.
Nice.
Oh, I had a little bit of running at the airport, didn't I?
Oh yes.
Missed my flight. Have you ever missed a flight before?
Nope.
I have a few embarrassing stories from this trip now, with being robbed and this flight being missed. I'll make a long story short just to make it quick. My flight was at 7 p.m. It was delayed till 8:30. Typically, I think, get to the airport 2 hours prior to your flight for an international flight. I think that's fair. So I rock up to Marrakesh airport at 6:30 once I'd been notified that my flight was delayed. Albeit, I arrive, boom, check-in desk is closed. I go to someone, I'm like, sorry, I've got a flight in 2 hours' time. Where can I check in? He just turns to me and says, "The desk is closed, sir." I say, "Pardon? Sorry? Can I check in my bag now, at least?" He just says, "No, you cannot. You have missed your flight." Upon hearing those words, my stomach dropped to my feet. I remember just thinking, what? I've missed my flight. I need to get home. My grandma's not well. I need to see her tomorrow morning early. I've got work. I cannot miss my flight. And so for the next half an hour, I'm passed between different check-in desks, different supervisors. I get to the head supervisor of the airport, and she just turns around and says, "I don't know how to tell you again. You have missed your flight. Go home." And I'm just there in this absolute state of worry and angst. How have I missed my flight? I got 2 hours before. She was saying that I should have got to the airport 3 hours before my original flight time, which would have
Yeah.
been 4 o'clock. 4.5 hours
Yeah.
before my actual flight, which I was not going to do. I was just baffled. So
Yeah, that
I missed
was
my flight.
horrible.
It was awful. So I went home, or not went home. I went back to the Airbnb. Saw you guys. We went out for dinner, didn't we?
Yeah.
I was just in a state. Managed to get a flight the next day back to London, which was fine in itself. But I can't believe I missed my flight.
Yeah, well, you've done it now, so
Lesson learnt.
That's that done. Lesson
God.
learnt. To which I learnt from that myself and got to the airport about 5 hours early. I had to check out the Airbnb, and I
Yeah.
had been already on a rooftop the whole time, was lugging my suitcase around. So it was just like, I need to do some work anyway. Let me just go work in the airport Wi-Fi.
Smart, yeah.
So just did that. I was very productive, and then came home, and now we're here
Now we're here in the land of the UK.
talking about criticism. Yeah,
Nice socks, pal.
they're yellow.
They're beige. Nice
Yeah.
beige socks.
Do you
They're
not-
not white anymore.
Do you not like them?
I'm just trying to criticize your socks.
So painful.
That was pretty weak.
Guys,
Nice socks, chump.
Just gonna go straight into it.
Why are we reflecting on criticism, Marcus?
Thank you for asking.
No worries.
I had a rough week. We touched on
Good.
it in the last episode, and it only got worse. And I just think we always talk about our well-being and the things we're experiencing, and I just thought, this is what I've experienced. Very much opened up to Charlie about it while it was happening, and just thought, let's talk about it in an episode, because, like I say, this is what we're going through. It's what I'm going through, and it's still very fresh in my mind, and something that I want to unpack a little bit, talk about,
Yeah.
reflect on, and just see where we can get to with it. I don't know that there's a resolution, a solution, but
A destination.
we're not here to get to the destination. We're here to just work through things.
Through talking about it,
Um,
we are getting there.
Yeah.
The destination is the journey, Marcus.
So, I how do I
I think just kick in straight into what the experience was like.
I live in the moment here. I'm just thinking about how there's so much in my mind that I could say, and I'm just thinking about how much I want to really just bear all of my, not traumas, but ugly thoughts here for everyone to hear, because it's not nice, and I don't want to I don't want to promote or advocate negative self-talk and all of those things, but this is very much an authentic reflection,
Yeah.
an introspective reflection. So, yeah, I'm just trying to think about that while talking. But basically, I'm someone who, as we know, struggles with self-confidence for my appearance as well as my personality. Now, I think there's been a lot of work I've done in the last year on the personality side, knowing that I haven't got to where I've got to, met the people I've met, had the successes I've had without having some sort of merit to my character, and my conversation skills and all of that. However, when it comes to my appearance, that it's just something that it's just, I don't know. People can say what they want to say, but then people say other people can say you look good or whatever, or you're handsome or whatever, but then other people say something that's completely opposite. So it's kind of like, well, what are we doing here, and what is true? It's just a lot more subjective, I think. Whereas there's a lot more objective foundations upon which I can base, not foundations, but there are a lot more markers of which I can credit my personality, I guess, to say that's a success there, which must be to do with my merit in my personality. Whereas
Yeah.
my appearance is just kind of, I think I'm whacked, and I think I'm whack, and that's kind of that. Anyway, I go into situations with that in my mind. No, it's not. I don't lead with it, but obviously, as anyone that has insecurities knows, as we all do, it's just a subconscious thing that is part of our character. I also say, when this isn't to make you know this, and I've said this to you before, and last week as well. Obviously, sitting next to a very handsome chap here. So, and I literally said to my hairdresser, I was like, "Oh, I'm sitting next to this like handsome chap, and I just sit there looking like a thumb. So, can you do something about that and make me not look like a thumb, please?" And it's not about two people comparing each other or whatever, or me comparing myself to someone else. But when you are working alongside someone We've got
is that a magpie?
a magpie that wants to get involved. When you're working alongside someone or meeting new people alongside someone and socializing and making friends alongside someone, uh, as that point of reference, it's just yeah, when you combine the two of appearance, then with the characteristic and the personality, it's just yeah, it's something that I I struggle with. And not it's not to say I struggle because I'm standing next to you, of course not, but I already feel like those types of ways, and then I think I read into things that wouldn't necessarily be read into. So
Do you put sorry, yeah, just is interesting, and to me, like, it's
this is also a lot, by the way. So
a mixture of everything. It's sad and enlightening to be hearing the way you're speaking about everything. Now I know for me, instantly saying something like when you're 70 or when we're 70 will look so much worse, and how we'll look back on our young 20-year-old selves and be saying things like, oh, how good we looked, or how lean and quick and strong we were. All these things you can say, but I also realize that doesn't take away the feelings of the now as well. So I'm not trying to,
yeah.
not listen to what you're saying, but
Mm.
does it call into the question how much we put our value onto our looks?
Yeah,
Because I
it
know
does,
you're
and I don't
saying,
want to spend my whole time thinking about that, but unfortunately, like these things just do happen,
yeah,
and you see yourself every day. And I have spent a lot of time. I go through ebbs and flows of it not bothering me, and me just thinking this is how I look, and also don't get me wrong, I don't think I'm offensive looking or whatever. I like
offensive.
it's just there are things I don't. I just,
Yeah.
for example. Okay, let's just be really honest. I don't like my hair. I don't like my jawline. I don't really like my mouth anyway, it doesn't matter. Most of the time I just don't really like think about it, or it's not I don't think about it, but I kind of just don't let it consume my brain or my day-to-day actions. But then sometimes, which is why we're talking about it this week, you hear things and people say things to you that kind of just reinforces those subliminal underlying feelings of yourself that you already kind of know, and people say things to you, or you see subtle, and that's the thing, like I see subtle things where someone might do something to you, or I don't know if we it's hard to without being specific here, but if we're like a video shoot or whatever, or
Yeah.
and someone's like, oh, Charlie, stand here, Charlie, do this, and I'm just there in the corner like, okay, don't worry about me. And to the point where it's not even me just being paranoid, you're literally seeing it and being like,
Yeah.
Marcus is there as well, by the way. Or
I know what you mean,
in
yeah.
a conversation, whatever. It's just but mainly why we're talking about it now is because I've beat around the bush for about 10 minutes. I had some strangers, over and over again on the course of like 3 or 4 days, speak on my appearance. And then it was just a bit like, yeah, someone said I looked like a camel, while in the same sentence saying he looked like a handsome Italian man. And then Boris Johnson, and then someone,
Respectfully, he had one tooth. He looked
which we
like an
already said last week.
absolute
Yeah,
villain.
yeah,
I know,
yeah.
but
And then someone else said, which is really, this doesn't really add into it, but it is all just small things that add up. But someone said, brother, you look red like a carrot, while he's there tanning, looking.
that did get me.
And
too,
then
but
his friend from the hostel was like, again, this is another thing, but
this
all
was
like
cruel.
very loving Charlie and all chummy, was like, as you were because you made friends in the hostel, and I was coming into a situation where you'd had all of these friends. And then that's another part which I'll speak on in a second, is that sort of personality side of it. But all these friends, he's like, oh, brother, you're going to be amazing at this half marathon. And Charlie was like, oh, yeah, and Marcus is as well. And he literally looked at me up and down. Was like, you don't look, or something like, brother, you don't look like you should be running a half marathon, or something like that. And I was
It
just
was
like,
cruel. That was a cool comment. Yeah.
in the moment, I was just like, what? I was just so taken aback that, and I don't know what it is. And it was just back to back in 3 days of people, and there was something else I can't remember, but 3 days of people just saying things to me about my appearance and my
Yeah.
face and my body. And I was like, and this is really insignificant compared to what other people hear on a daily basis. Also,
It's
again,
important.
on TikTok, like a TikTok live, we did a TikTok live, and obviously TikTok is the cesspit. TikTok live is the cesspit of, you get 12-year-olds, whoever, whatever,
Yeah.
whose brains aren't fully developed, and they don't have empathy or skills for that or whatever,
Yeah.
saying a McDonald's hairline,
Trust
something
fund
else,
accent.
trust fund accent,
Yeah.
mainly the hairline thing. And I kind of laughed it off because I was like, well, I already know that, so what are you going to do about it? But at the same time, I would be lying if I said it wasn't one of my bigger insecurities, to the point where I actually take medication for my hairline because I hate it that much, or I used to hate it that much.
Yeah.
So if you're taking medication for something because you don't like it that much, you're paying money to change it. There's clearly an insecurity, if I'm being honest, and actually
Yeah.
thinking about it. So all of those things, and then coupled with, obviously, I was going to this hostel where Charlie had been making friends for like the last
5 days.
5 days,
Yeah.
and I was very much kind of one part of me knows that I'm good at speaking to people and making friends and whatever. Like, I've made a whole run club in London from my own doing and from my own networking and speaking to people. But I think when I'm with someone else, with other friends who I already know, I very much fall into I don't know, a bit of like I I become a bit socially inept, and I can't. I'm just. I feel comfort in that person that I know, so I don't need to do the normal, not small talk, but the normal hostile small talk, or first time meeting someone small talk wherever you are. Because I'm just with that person. So I went into that situation going on this holiday like, okay, there's going to be this dynamic where you don't know any of these people and they're all going to be chummy and pally. I didn't really overly think about it, but I knew that I would kind of be a bit uh not quiet, but a bit
Boundary.
not on the back foot, but I don't want to say it like it's a social dynamic like that or calculated, but I guess a bit on the back
Reserved.
foot. So
Yeah.
I then was overcompensating, was like, oh, hi everyone, how's it going, or whatever, and was hugging people and whatever. So then when just naturally everyone was a lot more pally and chummy, and then we'd meet people as well, brand new people for the first time, and conversations
Yeah.
were happening where I felt like I just wasn't even speaking.
I do think going out
Uh,
later than I had, I do think that's nothing on you. It would be a difficult situation for anyone joining someone who you're close with, who'd been out there and already made friends and made a bit of a, not a network because it's fleeting, but just made a good situation out there. You're joining late to the party. That's a universal thing. I don't think that's any reflection on you as well. I know if that was even in my case, I'd feel like I was on the back foot. I'd feel like a stranger. I'd feel all these sorts of things of, oh, I just don't want to join in. Let me just be by myself. But then you judge yourself for not wanting to get involved and then feeling like you're not doing the person who you're actually there with justice. Those are universal feelings. So I know it's easy for me to say, having been out there earlier, but definitely try not to judge yourself for having those feelings because that is a universal thing. I think the difference in us going out there
yeah,
would cause those feelings for anyone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then so that was kind of that with the people, and I think I then was just in my own head about just myself and my conversational skills. So then I felt like I was then not overcompensating, but just really trying to make a conscious effort to, whereas in the past, like I say, I'd kind of fall back on someone else. Like in Vanessa, for example, I was very happy for you to take the lead with the Airbnb host, and I was just kind of
Yeah.
on my bed working away or whatever while you were chatting and doing your thing with how you are good speaking to people. Whereas then when we met new people, I was in Morocco, I was very much sort of, no, challenge that. You should, I shouldn't do anything, but you want to, speak to people, have a nice time, experience what it's like meeting new people on a holiday, because I haven't done that for a minute. And I then just, when that was happening, just also wasn't feeling my best and feeling inadequate and all those things.
I don't want to chalk it up to
So
culture, just saying that sort of abruptness or the, candidness. Is that even the word? That sort of candor. Yeah, the like honesty with what they were saying to you. It is a bit more of that sort of culture out there, just being very bullish with what they're saying, but I don't want to chalk up just mean comments
Well,
about that sort of stuff as well.
that's what made me feel even worse, because I was like, well, maybe it's just Moroccan people are honest. And it literally is the thought that went through my mind, because on my appearance, I've worked so hard in the last however long to not feel crap about how I look. And, I've had friends say, I'm not just saying this because you're my friend, but I don't want to hear you say those things about yourself. It's objectively ridiculous to hear that.
Yeah.
And people who I don't know so well, I know if we say it in jest, joking, but like you say, oh, my mum Tracy says you're a handsome guy or whatever, like those sorts of things. I don't know, I try and hold on to those things to remind myself that, we're all our own worst enemies and we all see flaws in ourselves that other people don't see. And
Yeah.
I try to look at myself how I look at my friends, and I only see the beauty in all of my friends. So I try to do that to myself.
Yeah.
But then when you have these strangers who, yeah, like you say, potentially this isn't what you're trying to say, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, maybe these people are just more honest, and they're, English people are so polite and try to
It's easy.
to be sensitive to each other's emotions. That's where my mind goes to. And I'm like, oh well, maybe this is just how it is, and your brain was right the whole time.
Well, this is the thing,
And
is there could be 20 true things said about you, which is the case, and then one thing which reinforces these negative self images about yourself. As anyone would, clings on to that one negative self image or that comment so much more, and it puts so much more doubt onto those 20 good things that people have said about you.
Yeah.
Now, what it categorically doesn't mean is that those 20 things weren't said out of just trying to be nice and trying to, say things just for the sake of it. I know you're chalking it up to British culture of people just being like happy or just giving you compliments. People don't lie. People don't lie to people. And I know it's easy to, when you're in this moment, think, oh, are these people honest? Which means it actually means something, compared to people in England who are saying something just because they think I want to hear it. And that means that what these people in Morocco are saying is true and what the people back in England isn't. That reinforces your own negative self-talk, and that is not the case at all. That is doing a disjustice to everyone who actually believes those things, which they've said good things about you, which are true. It's saying that they're just lying just to be nice, and that these people who objectively uglier, less successful, all these things than you, it's putting their values and their comments on a higher pedestal than everyone else is saying is true as well. Because it reinforces, if you have 100 things, 100 yeses.
We've spoken about this before, haven't we?
Yeah, if you have 100 comments, 99 of which are yes and one of which is no, as humans, we automatically pull to the no. We automatically listen to it.
Negative attribution bias.
Exactly that.
Yeah, the negative attribution bias is playing its work on me at the moment, doing its work on me at the moment. And I know this more than anyone. Like I teach this, I've studied this. It's part of evolutionary psychology. It's part of just lots of different fields of within psychology, academia within psychology, or fields of thinking, sorry, within psychology. But us as human beings, like you say, we focus from my perspective, from a survival perspective, not necessarily now in the 21st century when our threats are a lot less literal life threatening, but in a area or a time of the need to survive, we have to focus on the threat. We have to focus on that one negative, because that could be our threat to life. All of those good things are good, and that's great, but we have to think about or focus on what those negative things are. So our brain is hardwired to actually give attention and extra attention to that, which is it's difficult when we live in an age of the threats not being. I mean, we live in a much better. So we're not being chased by
woolly mammoths,
predators. But it's just difficult when your physiology doesn't match with the current threat, or the level at which the threat is posing, in terms of your physiology thinks it's a lot more threatening, and actually it's just some random person you've never met before saying you look a bit ugly, then sending you on a spiral. Because for the next person, and we always do this to each other, and this isn't exclusive to us, obviously, but speaking to yourself how you speak to your friend, as I just mentioned, anyone else come to me and say this, I would be absolutely avidly, passionately, this is the most ridiculous thing. Not invalidating their feelings, of course, but we know, let's work around how we know that this isn't true, this isn't valid, all of these things, all of these amazing things. But we're just in a situation, and
here's an interesting one. Having been in that situation, I don't want to make this about the other person, but from your standpoint, I'd just like to rack your brain a bit. When you're going through these feelings, what sort of things are you wanting to hear? Are you just wanting are you wanting an ear to listen, or are you wanting,
I don't know, I was
tangible advice? Not you, but one in general, do you think? It's more,
well, I can speak to my experience. When I was sad about it on whatever night it was, this is a bit, well, it's not dramatic, this is the experience. We were in a restaurant, and I just got really, we just walked to the restaurant, and this person said this to me on the way to the restaurant, and I just got it had just been a few days of it, and it had just been a bit. I was just tired, and it was just a bit much. And I just was a bit down and in my head about it, and you were very supportive, and I ended up just getting upset, and I was actually crying in the restaurant, because it's like a life worth of negative self-talk sort of being unearthed by these random strangers. And I think in that moment, all I could be was just sad, and sad not only that it was happening, but sad that I thought that about myself, and sad that this was just the reality in my brain. And there wasn't really anything that I needed or that could have really been done other than just warmth and support
Yeah.
and compassion,
Yeah.
which is what you provided. It was just sad.
It was.
And yeah, you can't. I think there's time and place to rationalize things and go through things. But yeah, I was just sad in that moment, and it was just a bit crap. And I felt crap, and
Because you can easily try and, as you've just said, shift and rationalize things onto all your achievements, all of everything of what you've achieved, and be saying to yourself, oh, this doesn't matter because I've done this, this, and that. But almost of what you were doing was just allowing yourself to sit in those feelings, maybe know they're fleeting, but also recognize the importance of them as well.
yeah,
It just gets you to know yourself even better as well.
yeah. But what's important for me is that I think zooming out, that I'm able to, and I'm proud of myself for being able to immediately, literally not 10 minutes after it happening,
Yeah.
be very raw about how it made me feel to
Yeah.
someone I have found that I can open up with.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate not everyone has that, but when if you find a person or people around you, a small network of people who you can do that with, that is something that I am grateful for myself for cultivating,
Yeah.
but also, for you, everyone else that I feel like I can do that with.
Yeah.
So I'm, in that moment, proud of myself for being able to just allow myself to firstly be sad. And yes, it was a bit embarrassing in a restaurant. I didn't intend to get upset and, cry, but then when you're being supportive, it just naturally spurs on those sorts of
Yeah.
those natural emotions. So yeah, I was proud of myself for being able to do that and allow myself to do that and be open about that and not sort of just keep it in and fester on it and just allow those to manifest and grow, because as we always say, when that's kept inside, it just builds power and builds itself in your brain.
Builds
Whereas
resentment
yeah,
and frustration.
and I also, because naturally this is really raw, not raw, but this is, I guess, as sort of introspective as one can be. When you have that, I can easily see why, especially in a duo dynamic or even a trio or whatever, why that might create resentment between two people.
Yeah.
Not that any party in that has any control or whatever, but if we're at, video shoots and one of the two is getting more attention, or in social settings and one of the two is leading conversations and having the other person just be ignored or whatever, or if you're in just getting more generally, I can see as a human trait, we are
Yeah.
born with possession for envy
Of course.
and for jealousy and all those things.
Yeah.
And they're things that I don't want to feel and I don't like feeling.
They're
And
on the
I
human
also,
spectrum of emotion for a
you
reason.
haven't chose that situation. This is all me, also my brain making this happen. Well, sometimes objective things where you've agreed that
Yeah.
things are happening.
Yeah.
That's not my insecurity. You've seen that sometimes before I have.
Yeah.
But that this is me. I can choose how to react to that situation.
Yeah.
And we are in this situation
Yeah.
strongest when we work together,
Of course.
and neither of us are choosing. And also things like appearance are so superficial in terms
Fleeting.
of
Yeah.
the conversations and the things that the power that we have when we discuss what we discuss and when we reflect how we reflect. So I could easily not talk about it when in the context of the comparison, I guess,
Yeah.
easily not talk about it and let you know that that's how I'm feeling. But as with everything, the more I can just be open, the less power it has, and
Exactly
the less
that.
ugly it can become. Because
Exactly that.
why should it?
Ugly.
It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's no one's fault. And actually, a lot of this isn't any fault at all. It's a lot of it's insecurity, which is just sad. Some of it is based in some other people's objective realities of saying, one thing to one and one thing to the other, or treating one person differently than the other. But that's not us doing that to each other.
No.
You don't choose that. I don't choose that. So we're a team, and that's what's important. And all I can do is communicate how I'm feeling to you, and vice
That's exactly
versa. And that's I guess I've never really thought that, but it's an active thing to not to work against that for resentment's sake and
Yeah.
envy's sake. Like, it's just ugly and it's not healthy.
As humans, we are
Um,
greeted with these situations almost daily,
yeah,
and we cannot control these events, these external events. You said it greatly there, is what the only thing we can control is our reaction to it.
yeah,
Now, that isn't just to say be completely stoic, shut all emotion out of it, and be logical, because as humans, we aren't logical sometimes. We have these range of emotions like jealousy or envy. The important part is to talk about it, to open up about it. It takes the power away.
yeah,
It takes these lingering feelings of resentment, which can build up if you don't talk about it. It's uncomfortable to say, hey, listen, I can see, let's say, for instance, I can see you're getting more screen time, you're getting more of this or that, and it's making me feel a bit resentful or I'm a bit jealous.
mm,
Saying that, it's uncomfortable, but the conversation which would open up would take so much power away from the potential
yeah.
of the unresolved
Oh, yeah,
resentment weeks on the line.
yeah.
And what
It's not
I
worth
think we
it.
pride ourselves on our friendship, and something that I know I've been working on a lot in the past year, is if you feel anything, just try and speak about it, try and say it.
Mm,
Maybe not instantly, maybe you need to, or maybe I need to think about it a little bit more, but in that case, you felt this way and you just wanted to be to open up about it. Sure, it's uncomfortable in the moment, really, really, really uncomfortable, but it takes all the power away from it and
yeah,
allows you to sit confidently knowing that you're a champion over your own emotions and that you have this healthy regulation to be able to know how you're feeling and then speak
mm,
about it as well,
yeah, for
because
sure.
you've reacted to the situation in accordance with your best self.
Yeah, definitely. It's all you can do,
Yeah.
and all I just don't want it to, like I say, be given any more weight than it needs, and it
Yeah.
already has got too much weight in my brain. The power of communication and all those things, is, like you
Yeah.
say, is yeah. I don't need to say any more on that. Really, it's just so important.
Yeah.
I think for me, I don't want this to become like a comparison conversation.
Mm.
That we have a lot of discussions about comparison, and we will talk more about comparison in general, not just between us, but comparing yourselves and your careers, your relationships, your life trajectories in general, all of those things.
Yeah.
There's so much that we in our 20s, I know, will speak to and want to speak to.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want this conversation to be about just comparing you and I, because that's not what it is.
No.
And that's one part of it. But a lot of this comes from actually just pre-existing insecurities
Yeah.
that were already there, and someone could have said that to me regardless of whether you were standing there or not, and it would have still been rubbish.
Yeah.
I think it just is made a bit more of a sting, because what makes it, I guess, harder is you could just think that they're an idiotic person or
Yeah.
someone that's just trying to be horrible. But when there's like a baseline of how they actually see things,
Yeah.
or oh well, they can say, oh, this person is nice or this person looks good, but you don't. It's kind of like, oh well, you're not just being horrible in general. You're seeing a difference, or you're seeing something about me that stands out.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily about continually saying, oh, I'm standing next to this handsome bloke. It's just the fact that, I guess, trying to unpack why it's important in this conversation is the fact that they,
Yeah.
in one sentence, can say something nice and the next sentence say something horrible. It's kind of like oh well, you do have the ability to be compassionate or to say something kind, but
You're choosing
for
not
me, you're
to.
choosing not to, because
Yeah.
and then that's what makes it. It's not the comparison, it's more like oh well, therefore then in my mind, my negative appearance must stand out more to you because you chose to say that, as opposed to the good things that you chose to say to
Yeah.
someone else. um
No. Yeah. It's
which
a
is,
difficult one.
yeah, it is. And I guess it comes back to the feedback and how we deal with feedback and what we take on, and the negative attribution bias of it all.
Yeah.
Like I say, have been, and we said in our receiving compliments episode, and what people of London in our street interviews very wisely said when we asked them, people don't just say these things, and you said as well, people don't just say these things for the sake of saying these things. When they
Yeah.
give you a compliment, they're not just wasting their air. If I'm someone that doesn't say something unless I mean it
Of
personally.
course.
So I'm sure other people are like that as well. Not everyone, but I'm sure other people must be like that as well. People aren't just going to say something because they want to lie.
Yeah.
So when you've been told certain things about your character, for me, it's more about my character over the last year.
Yeah.
I have little not little, but I do have lacking confidence in my character. I guess being specific, I think I have poor conversational skills, that I am dull, and that I think I am an for lack of a better word, an idiot. I feel like I don't have.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Wait.
No,
No, let me just
it's
carry on
ridiculous
with the
that you're.
specificity.
Why?
I don't.
What would you get
Just
from
let me,
listing your
because
bad
I want
traits?
to elaborate as to what I actually mean by that.
Okay, go ahead.
Because it's important to then, I guess, challenge or whatever. I
Yeah.
feel like I don't have the intellectual skills to have a conversation or hold a conversation confidently with someone
Okay.
beyond oh hi, yeah, the standard small talk.
Yeah.
It's a joke, I know, but when I say I do Christmas family quizzes with my brothers,
Yeah.
every single question, I don't know a single answer to any of them, and they're all just batting at question after question. These sorts of things, I know it's just general knowledge, is just one type of intelligence,
Yeah.
but I'm just there thinking, how do people know these things that I just don't know? So then I get into conversations, and even in my own mind, I'm just constantly beating myself up with people I'm very familiar with, even yourself or the housemates, thinking, God, we've been in silence for a while. Is this just because I'm rubbish at conversations? And seeing people on tables next to me when I'm sitting at tables at a restaurant, thinking, these people are constantly talking the whole time, and I'm not speaking. What? Just constantly internalizing that, thinking I'm rubbish at talking. I'm just saying this is the insecurity.
No,
So then
thank you for opening up
when
about it.
people give you the feedback of your whatever, or this feedback was more on my appearance, but it was also some of the subtext of what was being said or how I was being treated by certain people in these interactions was very much kind of a, you're not really needed here or whatever.
Yeah.
It just plays into that, and it just eats that up. And
As one of your close friends and someone who has a lot of love in the park for you, it annoys me. It doesn't annoy me, but it saddens me a lot when these things objectively are just untrue, categorically untrue. You're calling into question your intellect. You have a PhD. Becomes completely a big strike through the lack of intellect. Strike through it.
I know.
Your conversation, we're literally having a podcast about opening up about our most deep emotions. Strike through. These things are just categorically not true. So when I hear these things as your friend, I'm not trying to make it about myself, but it is sad because they aren't true. It's just that is it, and there is nothing more to it. I know these insecurities do go deeper as well, but from the outside, they aren't true.
Yeah.
And I know they hold weight within you and within your own mind. You hold a lot of weight to them, but it's the same thing as when we're older. I imagine we'll all look back, or I know I at least will look back, and certain things I say about myself, I look back and you'll say, "Oh, I was, in my mid-20s, I had a podcast, really good friends. I was fit. I was running marathons. I was doing pull-ups, all this sort of stuff, tanning a holiday, looking good. Yet you weren't allowing yourself to feel that joy and to sit in the reality of what it is. The reality is you have a PhD, thus you're smart. You have a podcast about opening up about your feelings, and you have a run club full of people who respectfully find you very interesting, and you can curate that conversation out of thin air, so you are good at talking to people. All these things are the reality, yet you don't see it as that. I think whilst it's okay, and I'm not trying to invalidate your feelings or your insecurities, they categorically they're not actually very true.
Yeah.
And I know you don't see that.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think this is what's interesting about sort of life and reflection and introspection is it's not binary. I go through waves, and I know in times that those things are just so inaccurate. Especially more so recently than ever. I've had more confidence than ever recently.
Yeah.
And it's been really refreshing and really nice, and I've been able to sit in more confidence and just be authentically sort of show that confidence to people.
Yeah.
Having had some external sources of validation, such as getting my PhD and allowing myself to really sit with that and not sort of externalize it and say, as I did throughout most of my PhD, I got the scholarship. I was like, oh, it's Kingston University. There's probably, I'm a, and then I got a blooming scholarship, and I externalized that and said, oh, it must just, they must have had a small pool of applicants or whatever. And then just all along the way, I kept thinking, this is that I'm going to be found out soon, that I'm not qualified for this. I'm going to be found out soon, until the point that it happened and I got it. And I have been working so hard on actually internalizing and saying, no, this is my own doing. And when I say internalizing, I mean attributing the success to my internal qualities. And knowing that actually, yes, you're right, I am an intelligent person. I am good at conversations. I am light and funny
Yeah.
and happy to be around and all of those things. But it's like I say, it's not a linear or a binary thing. It ebbs and flows. And when you go through these periods of having some knocks to your character or your appearance from people, in the context of this episode, from criticism,
Yeah.
it can set back all of that work that I have been doing or that one has done. Because having met you and having made friends with people like Lucy as well from the Run Club or whoever, and
Yeah.
it's been some of the most what's the word, just enriching, empowering experiences, having you people around me, because it's allowed me to sit in confidence that I hadn't otherwise
Yeah.
not been made aware of, because that implies that I can't get it myself. But
Yeah.
some part of that is people being around you, championing you and telling you, and it's been wonderful. And when I was saying these horrible things about myself a couple of weeks ago, our friend Noor was like, stop that right now. I do not want to hear you saying these things about yourself.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I have been very much working on the confidence, and I am feeling more confident than ever. I think this isn't an episode. In this episode, I don't want to give the impression that I'm sitting here every day thinking I'm this horrible, unattractive, unappealing person.
Yeah.
Some part of the devil on my shoulder does think that, and will always probably think that. But I am able to very much be present a lot of the time, and either not think about it or think positively about it.
Yeah.
In other cases, in other instances, I remember walking around Rome, and this is really stupid and superficial, but I literally said to you when we were walking around Rome, I was like, God, I look great today. And you were like, yes, you do.
Yeah.
It's just those small little things that I like.
Yeah.
It's just but yeah, for the last couple of weeks, or last week, it just hasn't been that way, and I've just felt a bit crap. And that's probably spurred on by the feedback. And I think all of that to say is that feedback is, well, it wasn't asked for, so some
Yeah.
actionable things.
Yeah.
What is it? Don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from.
Exactly that. Yeah. Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. Yeah.
And this guy who I'd never met, those people I'd never met before,
You
respectfully,
wouldn't take
I didn't
advice
want to
from.
meet them either.
Yeah.
They imposed themselves upon me. There was one guy who you were friends with or who you knew. Other than that, they imposed themselves upon me, walked up to me,
Yeah.
and very much spoke to me about myself, not asked.
Mm.
I didn't ask you for your advice, nor did I ask you about your thoughts on
Yeah.
my appearance or my character. So respectfully, I don't care. Obviously, in this instance, I did care, but
Well, this is the thing, as you said multiple times now, you can't control who comes up and says what to you.
yeah,
We cannot. As people, a lot of things happen to us, and this isn't me trying to invalidate your own experiences, but we cannot control if someone wants to come up to us and says this mean thing, we cannot control that. All we can control is how we sit with ourselves afterwards, how we react to that as well. Part of me is quite interested about the balance between the reality is, I think, your mind, what you tell yourself is true. I do think there's a little bit to that. But also, on the other side of the fence, if you're feeling a certain way, just allowing that to flow and feeling and sitting that as well.
yeah.
So there are two paths. One
Both
being,
so true.
both are so true. Path A is you hear this negative comment and you say, I don't believe it. It's not true. I have all these amazing things about me. Would probably lead you to feel better. That's path A. You choose to react in a good way about yourself and shun that negative advice. Path B is not internalize it, but you listen to it and you take it on and you sit in your emotions and you feel sad and it's okay to feel sad as well. And that will also pass as well. Both of which are okay and normal. And I think something just listening to what you're saying and observing a bit is how do you balance those two things in
Yeah.
terms of path to take when you're
Yeah.
greeted with this negative situation.
Well, it's probably a case of doing exactly what you just said, They've said these things to me, which very much are accurate to my insecurities.
Yeah.
but listen to yourself, know the work that you've done on yourself or in your mind over the last however long. For me, since last July when I got my PhD, I think there was just a shift there. You know, something around that time or October, whenever, there was just a shift there when things started to change and I started to just grow in the confidence and the self-love and all those things. Just reminding myself, okay, that what they've said there, it aligns with your insecurities. However, you've also, that these things aren't necessarily true and these are your insecurities. So there is that alignment, but there's also all of this work that you've been doing. And it's okay to be sad about that and acknowledge that those are insecurities. But it's also important to remind yourself of, and not do a disservice to all of the work that you've done for yourself.
Yeah.
To allow yourself to be present here and to be happy here and to have the joy in these moments and to not care about these things.
Yeah.
Really, I think that's what's for me. I think what I aspire to is sort of body and I guess face or whatever, neutrality as opposed to positivity. That positivity, I think, comes with some of its own issues of vanity and whatever. I think if you're just neutral and neither way, I think that's probably for the best, because then you're also not like chasing or trying to maintain or whatever.
It's an
You're just
impossible thing.
yeah,
Aging is natural.
exactly. So
Oh,
body
yeah.
neutrality for me is the aspiration and where I had
Completely
been
agree.
getting to. And yeah, so I think just saying that is sad, and they have hit things quite accurately that you have been feeling for a long time, but
Yeah.
also don't let that muddy or confuse all of the work that you've done, but also the external objective information that you have available to you in your bank that tells you that that is also not true.
Yeah.
For me, about the character, about, like I say, the objective things that I can't deny, the run club success, the PhD, all of this podcast,
Yeah.
my friendships, those things don't
Happen.
yeah. And you can
Yeah.
be insecure about friendships and get in your own mind about all those things as well and think this, that, and the third about
Yeah.
whatever. But ultimately, someone's not going to be friends with you and stay around if
You're just a good-looking chap,
if you're
or
all
if
of these, if
yeah.
you're dull, if you're not nice, if you're whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No, I completely agree. I think exactly that. It's all about balance. But to be serious, I've seen in my own experience, the more I've dropped the shallow, the physical, all of those traits about that, and focus more on the internal and the values, the better a lot of things have become.
yeah.
I know we were saying as well, in nature, true nature, if we're stripping back everything that we've created as humans, there are really no mirrors, are there? Or no reflective surfaces,
That would be a
apart from
hell for
water.
you.
Huh?
That would be a hell for you.
No, what? Okay. I'm not, okay. I'm not going to speak on that. We joke at that. I'm really vain, guys. But it's part of what I was saying as well, is that as I've begun to just drop and ignore and just shun those sorts of physical, not traits, but those more shallow tendencies that I may have once possessed, and just really focused on values, the internal personality. A lot of true happiness comes
Yeah.
from that, and that fake happiness, which you can get from, looking good or whatever sort of way drops, that is inevitably going to go.
Yeah.
With aging, it's one of the only guaranteed things in life,
Yeah.
is that we age, we look worse, there's wear and tear. But true love, true happiness, and true connection comes from your person, your
Yeah.
values, and your soul.
So true.
And leaning into that and shunning the sort of physical appearance, I think, for myself at least, has allowed me to form much deeper connections. And I imagine in a situation where someone was to call into your character, or to your appearance, sorry, the more you can lean into your own self and your own appreciation, the less that weighting that has. When someone says something negative as well, you can be like, yeah, cool, do not care, and you genuinely do not care as well.
Yeah, which usually, again, it just comes.
Easier said than
It
done.
comes in
Easier said
waves.
than
It
done, I should
comes in.
say.
It
Yeah.
does come in waves, and a lot of the time, especially recently, I kind of, for example, this is ridiculous. I had a viral TikTok video. Well, I've now had two. One with like 2 million views or 1 million views or something, and then the other with 5 million views.
Yeah.
And I know that in the comments, there are many things about my appearance.
Mm.
Well, the first one I read them and I literally just didn't care. Someone said the people that they were saying I look like, or the things they're saying I look like, I just didn't even Google them because I just didn't care. I truly didn't care. And this second one that's got 5 million views, I've read a couple of the comments when I get notified, but there's thousands of comments. I have not read them. I just don't care to. I'm not bothered. And that might sound disrespectful to people that have shown support or whatever, but I know a lot of them are just people actually just arguing in the comments about what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And I'm just there thinking respectfully, what are you doing? If you're saying that, and this comes to also in person, this person that said I don't look like I shouldn't be able to run a half marathon. If you're choosing to actively either go online and type something out with your time, like I was saying, I think last week or the week 2 weeks ago about this guy that was being horrible about me being emotional. If you're choosing to either say that to someone's face, firstly, bold of you, but if you're also choosing to type something out online, it comes back to I truly don't care about your opinion.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Why are you choosing to actively make someone's day worse,
Yeah.
either in person or online? That to me, that is just the indicator that that conversation doesn't even need to be opened or
Yeah.
considered. And this is the other side of me that's coming out, because it's like, yes, if you're choosing to do that, it just tells me that your character is flawed and it's not in a good place, and you have insecurities or whatever, that you've got issues that are making you act in that way. Therefore, you've also got issues that probably mean your judgment is off and out of whack, because if you had better judgment skills, you wouldn't choose to do that in the first place.
Yeah.
Therefore, I don't care for your judgment.
Yeah.
And it goes back to I wouldn't take criticism from people I wouldn't take advice from. And it's very much that case. If you're choosing to sit there and put someone down, who the hell are you? What the hell are you doing?
One step further on that is actually showing empathy back, which you did to that person in the comments, saying,
yeah.
"Hey, you are clearly hurting. My heart is with you. I hope, I hope everything's okay. Look after yourself." You hit back with such love. Not only is that so powerful for yourself, you're able to see this negative comment, sit on the sidelines, observe it. Sure, it's about you, but because you have this such grounded depth and sort of, there's just a grounded nature about you, knowing your own true value and sitting in that,
Yeah.
you can see this comment, this negative judgment towards you. You don't internalize it. You see it and you can observe it, and you can say, this person's clearly hurting if they're saying this sort of thing. I hope you're okay.
Yeah.
But that is, of course, like close to the enlightenment sort of thing that
Yeah.
we've been saying, is whether it's even attainable. But I do think that's one step further, is saying, who the hell are you? What's your opinion? Going one step further is knowing that it's my reaction,
Yeah.
which I can control, truly sitting in the value, which we actually know that we have comfortably, dropping all sorts of, physical shallow traits and just saying, that's a pretty cruel comment. I don't take it on because I know myself truly. You're clearly hurting for you to say that. Hope everything's okay with you. How can I help?
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
One
So
day.
true. No, but it's, and I think this is what's important, is within the space of however long, I can say both at the same time.
Exactly that.
I was really upset in that time, but at other times, and for the majority, I have got to a place where actually I can sit and know my worth and know my positive attributes, to the point where, honestly, I'm not lying, I have not read those comments on that Instagram video, and I don't care. I'm just not, but I've got so much to do with my life. I'm so busy. Respectfully, I'm not going to sit and read these thousands of comments where people are putting me down or arguing with each other about what I'm doing. I've got business to build. I've got life to curate. I've got success to make. I'm not.
Why is it any different then if it's online or if it's in? I get it's a bit of a flawed question.
Well, I think that is it. Maybe that's what knocked me this time, because before it's online, and this time I've never,
in person.
Since I was bullied as a child, I've not really had people say things about my appearance
to your face,
to my face, since I was bullied for being overweight as a child. So maybe actually thinking about it, that's also what was slightly upsetting. I just also, in the moment, it was so annoying. I didn't know what do you say, and you're like a deer in headlights. I just went to him, nice to meet you too, mate. I said to Charlie, I was like, I think there'd be some power in just turning around to someone and saying, what you just said there really actually upset me, to their face, or that's actually caused me some upset there. I hope just you know that.
the power
because
that
it would
has
just
over
kind
them.
of knock them back and be like, oh. And because obviously some part of them intended to do that, actually just having power in saying that and being vulnerable to them, kind of, they don't expect that vulnerability from you, and that vulnerability to me is the ultimate power.
Yeah.
Because none of us allow ourselves to be vulnerable to each other, and if you can be vulnerable, then what else is there? I'm vulnerable to you. What else can you do to me?
That's you showing your true self.
Yeah.
And once you're showing your true self, no one can knock you.
Exactly. And I kind of,
Yeah.
not that I'd care about what he thinks, and I moving forward, but in that moment I said to you, I was like, it would have been quite cool if I just said that to him, but I don't know if it would have landed. But
Who cares? As long
yeah,
as you're serving yourself best, right?
yeah,
Then that's all that
for
matters.
sure. But anyway,
Yeah.
I just thought it was important to reflect this week, because it was very much a reality of what I had been going through, and I wanted to be honest about it. And
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here and make it a pity party.
You're not at all.
I very much have lots of characteristics that I appreciate and love in
Good.
myself, and I very much know I hold my own next to Charlie, and I'm not some sort of thumb standing.
It's funny. I've often thought the opposite in my own. It's so funny how our own perspectives are our own reality. In a lot of situations, I've actually thought I'm the sort of not side piece, but that sort of extra on the side when you're shining in the run club or shining on this here. It's funny how that we see such different perspectives, and the reality is always how we see it instead.
All our own worst enemies, right?
Yeah. So it's just knowing that, truly knowing that our own perspectives are our own reality, and trying to make our own perspectives a nice place to be in.
Yeah.
Make your own head a lovely place to be.
Picking each other up, picking ourselves up, and
Of course.
always looking after ourselves and each other. And that's all we can do, and that's what's important to do. But I hope in
Exactly.
me opening up about this and reflecting about this, I don't know what I hope, but I hope that it sort of just shone a light on that it's not all hunky dory, and that
It's not.
it's okay that we can be working on our confidence and batting off these negative comments whilst also letting them affect us, because
Yeah.
that very much has happened to me, and I can very much have this I'm okay persona about it,
Yeah.
which most of the time I am, whilst also in this sitting at a restaurant accidentally crying, being embarrassed for crying because there's people literally looking at me like, is this guy okay? But it's okay. All of the
Yeah.
above is okay, and that's what's
It's
important to
completely
say.
fine.
And I will keep saying that, and you will keep saying that.
Of course.
But yeah, thank you for letting me open up about that one.
That's fine.
It's
Thank you for opening up.
yeah,
It's good.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it, and I just want to come back out of that vulnerability and say I'm very confident in other ways, and I'm not, like I say, I don't need to do anything or say anything out of that vulnerability. The vulnerability was there, but I'm. It's not a pity party. I have lots of self-worth, and I'm can assure you over the last years specifically, I've done a lot of growth in that area. So I very much enjoy this growth in confidence, and will continue to do so. I'm feeling more confident than ever, and I absolutely am loving how I'm feeling about myself, and just therefore generally.
Good to hear.
But I think, ironically, this confidence in myself is allowing me to also share my
It
lacking
is.
confidence in
Yeah.
myself and the vulnerability there.
It's a scale, is that truly
I
the
wasn't-
people who are hating are actually the least confident.
Yeah.
And you go through this scale, or this not linear, but this sort of flow, that when you get really confident, you can be so vulnerable and open up.
Yeah.
So that then you get to that state of where
Which
you're
is-
sitting there and you can see this comment, and you've gotten so comfortable with being vulnerable and knowing your own true self,
Yeah.
that then you see this comment and you're like, it just doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
So I'm grateful to myself for being in a place where I can confidently be speaking to a public platform about my worst insecurities, about my appearance, and saying out loud what I don't like about myself, because I guess that shows true confidence in a way.
It does.
So yeah, well done me. Well
Well
done me.
done. What's a pat on the
Talking
back?
of pride and confidence, have you got a mood boost for me?
Ooh, I do indeed.
Please.
I do. So I mentioned it briefly at the beginning. My nan's not too well, so just been looking after her recently. And I came back from Morocco yesterday. I drove straight to her house. Saw her, which was lovely. And when she saw me, she lit up and started, squeezing my hand, which was amazing. And it's a tiny thing, but just being able to see her again, just made me so happy. And it just puts everything into perspective. It just makes you realize everything fleeting doesn't really matter, and it's the people who you're around. And for me, getting to go back from a holiday, seeing my nana again, seeing her reaction to me, even just coming back and seeing her, was lovely. Boosted my mood, made me feel happy. So
Thanks for sharing.
no worries.
Not tiny.
Hmm?
Not tiny.
Not tiny at all. No, it's just lovely just to see her again and just spend time with her as well, because that's what truly matters, is the quality time. Seeing my family and seeing my nana and everything, just reflect on life and reflect on the memories. It just puts everything into one big equation, which is, the answer is truly the memories you make with the people are the most important thing. And because if you're nearing the end of your life and that's what you're focusing on, it's not the cars, the places you've been, or the things you've bought, it's the memories you have with the people you love. Seeing that, in action and being able to partake in that, it was so lovely. So really glad I got to go back home and see that as well. So yeah, that was my mood boost.
Thanks for sharing.
No worries. What about yours? What was your mood boost?
My mood boost is, well, it's actually from Justine Burke.
Thanks,
so
Justine.
she shared with us on the Instagram
Yeah.
that she qualified for Boston Marathon for
Unreal.
Good for Age, which is absolutely incredible. I know Justine from Camp America. Beep, 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 beep. I did Camp America back in 2015.
Seriously.
And all these years later, we're still social media friends. And I sounded so old saying that.
Social media friends.
We're friends on the Twitter.
We have the computer BBM friends.
www. Whiskey with water. Yes.
Whiskey
Gavin and
with
Stacey
wa-
reference.
I don't get it.
Yeah, so Justine let us know that she got a Boston qualifier, which is absolutely incredible.
Wow.
For anyone that isn't in the running sphere, getting a Boston qualifier is just, it's not a thing. You can't do it. It's impossible. Well, it's not impossible.
Really?
You good for age for men, I think, Boston for our age. I this is a complete ballpark random figure. I think you would have to run a competitive marathon of like 2:32 or something.
Oh my god.
Yeah, 2 hours 32 to get good for age or something.
Seriously?
But it's way under 2 hours. Way under 3 hours, sorry.
Jeez. Wow.
So it's just
Very
anyway,
quick.
yeah, it's incredible that she got that. So well done. That's that mood boost. And
Boston
just
Marathon, you said?
yes.
Have you been to Boston before?
I have been to Boston.
Really?
I can't wait to go back as well.
Beep, 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 beep.
Yes,
Wow.
so I
Well done,
just,
Justine.
yeah, well done, Justine.
Massive
And
well
thank you
done.
for sharing that. Just
Thanks for
just
sharing
as a
that.
reminder, every week we put out on our Instagram stories a little question poll thing for you to share your weekly mood boosts for us to share here. So keep them coming. We love to see them.
We do.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Let us know what your mood boosts are for this coming week.
Please do.
We might say them on the next episode.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that episode.
Thank you for that conversation. It was lovely.
It was good.
I loved that one. That was raw, authentic, and brilliant. So thank you for opening up.
I appreciate the space to do so.
No worries.
And that's what we've cultivated here.
Holding space.
So holding space as always.
Very nice. Right. Well,
let's wrap this up.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you for joining. Numero 11.
11. 11. We will see you guys in the next episode.
I'll do some ASMR recording of. Beep 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 beep.
Pause this.
No, I'm not going to do the outro because it's going to be outroing itself.